Okay, guys. So I shortchanged you in the last video with regards to writing in words, and so I want to show you. So what I showed you was I converted a decimal from standard form. As you recall, this was 32 and 8,025 ten thousandths, right? And just as a brief recap is that we treat the numbers like they're whole numbers, and we make sure that we identify our point as and. That's our point. And then we identify the at the ending of our translation or conversion from standard form to words, we ID the place value of last digit. All right. So that's just a brief recap. So what I wanted to show you, what if it was just 0.8025? How would we put those in words? Now, some of you might be tempted to say 0 and, 8,000, and this EIGHT, 8,000, da 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 da, and I'm like, no. In this case, the 0 has no value. You can just write it as the whole number that you see. That's the thing about decimal, the whole number form that you see. So this will just, so I'll just put a big no. No, no, no. I wish I had a red pen. All right. So it'll be a big no, right? You don't need to say 0 and 8,025 10,000s. You just go straight to it and you can say 8,025 10,000s. Okay. So you follow the same process where you just write it as a whole number, but you make sure to identify that you're working with decimal. You must write the place value of the last digit. Place. I'll put PV for short, PV of digit 5. Now, what happens now if you see it in words? So I'm going to show you now. You may see something in words. So your book has something like 800 34 thousandths. Now, here is my advice to students, because this could get really, really tricky. So we see that the last digit will be in the thousandths spot. That means this decimal has been written to 3 places. So my advice to you is create those spaces, right? Thousand. So I'll have my decimal. Notice there's no and here. So obviously it's a 0 point something, right? So it'll be 0 point, right? Now, because my last digit is in the thousands, that means it's 3 decimal places. Remember, 1,000, 3 zeros, 3 decimal places. So tenths, hundreds, thousands. And I will make sure that my last digit is in the thousand spot. Now it says 834. So you see it's written as a whole number 834. So I'll write backwards. I'll make sure my 4 is in the thousand spot. Then I'll fill in my 3, and then I'll fill in my 8. Why did I show you that? What if it was 8 EIGHT? Yeah. What if it's 834 10,000s? What if it was that? Right? What this is saying is that my last digit is in the 10,000 spot, and 10,000 mean I have 4 zeros, so 4 places. So there's no and, so it's a 0 point. So and means that there's a whole number before. That's what the and is, whole number and decimal. Okay, so there's no and, so that means there's no whole number. Okay, so my whole number is 834. Now notice I have only 3 digits, But this is a 4-digit decimal because 10 thousandths, 4-digit decimal. And please be advised, this is 10 thousandths, which means it's 1 over, if written as a fraction. That's what 10 thousandths means. It's a decimal place, right? So I will do like I advise you here. I'll fill in my 4 spaces, right? Write my whole number, and I'll make sure that my last digit is in the 10,000th spot. 4, so that's 3, 8, and then yes, you guessed it right. For my missing space, I'll use 0 as a placeholder. So this would be 834 10,000ths, right? Now you could have seen 54 and 834 10,000ths, right? And I'm just gonna write a little shorthand here, 10,000ths, right? 834. If you're following the video, then you'll know from the beginning that that's 10,000ths. Just listen to my voice. All right, good. So here now we have the and. That means a whole number is involved prior to getting to the decimal. So that whole number would be 54. Right? And so 54 point. And as we identify again, right? It's in the 10,000 spot. So it's 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. My whole number is 834, which we established in the previous example. I'll make sure I put my last digit in the 10,000 spot. And then whatever I don't have, I put a placeholder. All right. So this was a continuation of writing standard form, from standard form to words, and vice versa for decimal. Now let's go into rounding, right? Now remember, we talk about place value. So we're going to get into rounding, right? Now it's the same process for whole number. So let's say you're asked to round 32.8025 to the nearest hundredths. I'm just going to write it in short form, nearest hundredths. So remember what we learned in whole number form. If you're following in notes, I'm going to identify the digit in my hundredth spot, which is 0, right? And then I'm going to look to the digit to the right of it. If that digit is 5 or more, my place value digit will increase by 1. But if it's less than 5, it will stay the same. So this is actually 32.80. However, and remember, in whole numbers, we're like all other digits become 0, but that's for whole numbers. Remember, if you're keeping up with your notes, zeros at the end of any decimal has no value. So this would be 32.8. Let's say you were asked to round to the nearest tenths, right? Nearest tenths, right? So again, I will look at my decimal number and I'll identify my tenths digit. So 8 is in the tenths. If I look to the digit to the right of it, it's less than 5, way less than 5, okay? So that means my 8 will stay the same, so it'll be 32.8. And as a rule, we know all other digits are 0 out, and for decimals, we don't need to write the zeros. So this is just go to 32.8 again. And like I said, this was 32.80, but it doesn't make sense because decimal at the end has no value. A 0 at the end of a decimal has no value. Let's just do one more example. Let's say I want to round to the nearest thousandths, right? 32.8025 to the nearest thousandths. So again, I'll identify my digit in the thousand spot. This is tenths, hundredths, thousands. So that's 2 is in the thousand spot. The digit to the right of it is actually 5. So here's my opportunity. Remember, if the digit is 5 or more, your place value digit increases by 1. So here, my 2 will increase by 1. So it's 32 and 803 thousandths. I'm getting fancy. I'm using the decimal vocabulary, but 32.803 in layman language. And that's a 3. And then that 5 would zero out, but just not to be sung like a recurring decimal. Ha 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 ha. That's a decimal joke. All right, whatever. This would be 32.803 because 0 at the end has no value. Okay, guys, so that's it for rounding and the continuation of converting from standard form to words and vice versa.